All right, today we're diving into something that's a really big deal for every school out there, the new Digital Personal Data Protection Act, or DPDP. And trust me, this is way more than just another piece of paperwork. It's a fundamental shift in how you're responsible for student and parent data. So let's break down what this actually means for you day to day.
So let's start with a question that really gets to the heart of the matter. What happens to student data after it's downloaded from your school's main system? An admissions list, a scholarship report. Once that thing is an Excel file on someone's computer or a USB stick, where does your responsibility end? Well, the new law has a very, very clear answer to that.
Okay, let's get into the details of this new data mandate. The DPDP Act of 2023 basically sets a brand new bar for schools. We're moving way beyond just locking down your servers. Now it's about securing the data itself, no matter where it goes. So here's the most critical piece of the puzzle. It's this shift from a one-time, check-the-box kind of compliance to what's called continuous responsibility. The DPDP Act is saying your job isn't done just because the data is stored safely. Nope, you are now on the hook for the entire life of that data. Who sees it, how they use it, who they share it with, and when it finally gets deleted. And the Act gets super specific about what this control really means. You have to be able to manage exactly who can see what information. You need to control what they can do with it, like can they copy it, can they share it? And, this is the kicker, you have to be able to prove all of it with a solid audit trail. These rules count both inside your school's network and, yes, even after the data leaves it. And let's be really clear about what we're protecting here. This isn't just abstract data. We are talking about students' names, their home addresses, their parents' phone numbers, admission records, really sensitive scholarship data. I mean, this is personal stuff. The school might be holding it, but the law makes it crystal clear. This data belongs to the students and their families. Okay, so this brings us to the real-world problem, right? How does a school actually lose control of this data in the chaos of daily operations? Well, the biggest risks are usually hiding in plain sight, in things we do every single day.
I mean, just think about it for a second. How often is student data downloaded into an Excel sheet, emailed between departments, or copied onto a USB drive just for convenience? Every single time that happens, the school's control gets a little bit weaker, but your responsibility under this new law, it stays exactly the same. Absolute. Here's a perfect everyday scenario. A school shares a list of student records with an outside vendor for some kind of project. The project wraps up, everyone's happy, but that file, full of sensitive student data, is just sitting on the vendor's computer. Forever.
And this is right where the DPDP Act comes in with some really tough questions. It's going to ask, 1, was that vendor's access ever cut off? 2, was the data they had deleted? And 3, the most important question of all, can the school prove any of this actually happened? For a lot of schools right now, the honest answer is probably no. So the thing you've really got to grasp is that this isn't just about cybersecurity or building bigger walls to keep hackers out. The biggest compliance risks you're facing come from these normal, internal, everyday actions. Giving people way more access than they need, letting files get copied all over the place, and just not having a trail to see who did what. So that kind of begs the question, right? Why can't our existing IT systems just handle this? Well, the answer is that there's this huge gap between the old way of thinking about security and this new legal reality. This slide just lays it out so clearly. See, traditional security is all about protecting the container, the server, the network, but the DPDP Act doesn't care about the container, it cares about the content. It's about protecting the data file itself. The second a file gets downloaded, old systems lose all control. DPDP says, nope, that protection has to travel with the file. That right there is the enforcement gap. And on top of that, we can't just fix this by telling our staff to be more careful. I mean, come on, expecting every single person, every teacher, every clerk, every administrator to correctly identify sensitive data, remember all the rules, and apply them perfectly every single time for every single file, that's just not realistic when you're talking about the scale of a school. It's a recipe for failure. So if policies aren't enough and our old systems can't do the job, then what's the answer? Well, it's about shifting from relying on people to relying on automated enforcement. So let's take a look at what a solution that's actually built for this problem looks like. To really meet the demands of the DPDP Act, schools need a totally different kind of tool. We're talking about a system where the rules are automatic and the controls are literally baked into the files themselves, so they stick with the data no matter where it goes.
And this is exactly where solutions designed for this challenge come into the picture. A system like SUMS ERP, for example, it combines all the critical pieces you need. It manages the student data, sure, but it also handles things like automatically classifying data, giving you super detailed access controls, and it has those all-important audit logs built right in to give you the proof you need. And you can see it right here in action. Just look at this. On the left, for data that's public, a policy can give full permissions, no problem. But on the right, for those sensitive student records, the system can automatically block the ability to copy, to print, or even to export the file. The rules are enforced by the system, not by the user having to remember to do it. And here it is. This is the part that lets you answer those really tough DPDP questions. A core feature of any good compliance system is that every single action gets logged automatically. The system tracks who touched the data, exactly when they did it, and what they tried to do. This isn't an afterthought. It has to be built in from the ground up. Now, managing all these rules isn't as complicated as it sounds. These kinds of policies are usually handled from a really clear central dashboard. You can see in this example from SUMS ERP how an administrator can easily manage who has access to what all from one place. It makes controlling security across the whole school so much easier.
So, we know the technology is out there, but the big question is, how do you make this work in the real world, especially with the unique challenges of the government school ecosystem? Let's talk about what implementation actually looks like.
You know, a huge advantage of these modern, specialized systems is that they're designed for specific environments. A platform like SUMS ERP, for instance, it's built to run on the servers you already have, right there in the school or in-state data centers. It's made to work even where internet is spotty, and it doesn't force you to push all your data to the cloud, which is a huge deal for preventing external exposure.
And adopting this doesn't have to be this massive, scary project that happens all at once. The path forward is actually pretty manageable. You can start small with a pilot in just one district to get everything right and establish a secure baseline. Then from there, you can expand out to more schools in a way that's controlled and totally measurable.
So, let's wrap this up with the single most important takeaway. The DPDP Act hands schools this huge, new level of responsibility for student data. But a system that's built for this purpose is what takes that legal idea and makes it practical, manageable, and most importantly, makes it enforceable. So I'll leave you with this one last question to think about. It's no longer a matter of if you're responsible for this data. The real question now is how will you prove it? When the time comes, how will your school actually demonstrate that you have control over every piece of student data every single day? That's the critical question every school leader needs to be asking right now.